Hey, so we're looking at comparing fractions in class, and this video is just a really short video to try and get people understanding the concept behind fractions and how they can equal percentages and how they can equal decimals and whatnot. So bear with me as I go through this. I want to teach you real quickly, if you've got a number of fractions that you're looking at, like here where we've got a quarter, 2/3, 5/13, 7/16, and so on and so forth, trying to find a common denominator is going to take you a very, very long time. So one of the tricks that I was teaching my class today was, let's just change the fraction into something that's a little bit more manageable. And I was trying to find some videos on YouTube about this, and I found a bunch of number lines. And I think comparing fractions is actually a little easier than what a lot of people are trying to do. So why don't we actually just change the fraction into decimals or into percentages, because that will give us the same kind of equivalency. And one of the things that we need to remember when we're dealing with fractions is that we're dealing with essentially decimals and we're dealing with percentages of a whole. So we're going to take another video later on, which it's going to kind of describe fractions and compound fractions and all of that stuff, and look a little bit more in depth in that. But for right now, the focus of this video is simply going to be teaching you or giving you kind of some instruction on how to compare all these fractions in a fraction of the time. That's pretty funny. See what I did there? So here's what we're going to do. If you're not familiar with how to change a fraction into a decimal, then what you're going to do is you're going to need this guy right here. The numerator is going to be important. Real quick note, a fraction simply is you've got a whole. So let's say that you've got I know pizza seems to be the one that's most commonly used, so we'll use pizza just for the sake of argument. You've got a pizza that's split into 4 equal pieces, and of that one piece right here is the piece that you've selected. So you have the equivalent of 1 out of, that line is telling me it's out of 4 equal pieces. So keep that in mind as we're doing it. The idea in order to compare these fractions and look at them and see which one's largest and smallest and so on is going to rely on kind of what this picture is trying to dictate. So let's go back here. I'm just going to eliminate these pictures here real quick. If we have 1 out of 4, it's technically the same thing as 1 divided by 4. And if we take 1 and divide it by 4, we're going to get decimal 25. Now that is a decimal which is the same. 1 divided by 4 equals, and equals means the same as, decimal 25. So I can use that decimal for sure, but just for the sake of showing you what the percentage looks like as well, I'm going to multiply that decimal 25 by 100, and it's going to give me the equivalent of 25%, which 25% is the same thing. Now let's do the same thing with 2/3. I'm going to take 2/3, 2, and I'm going to divide it by 3. So 2 divided by 3, and I'll just make it like a fraction over here, and it's going to give me a decimal of decimal 6, repeating, and then we're just going to put a 7 at the end. To show you what that looks like as a percentage, I'm going to multiply that by 100, and it's going to give me 66%. Now notice, I didn't have to find a common denominator in order to solve this. All I simply did was change it into a decimal and then change it into a percentage. So let's continue on and let's see what we can find here. If I take 5 and I divide it by 13, and I'm just going to start doing this on a calculator real quickly here so you can just to get through it and continue on here. So if I take 5 and I divide it by 13, I'm going to end up with decimal 38461538, but I'm just going to go to the nearest thousandth, which will be 3846, which is going to be 385. I'm going to multiply that by 100, and that's going to give me 38.5%. Same thing with 7/16. If I take 7/16, now if I just look at 7/16, I know that it's slightly less than half, because half of 16 is going to be 8, and I know that 7 is smaller than 8. So I know the number is going to be less than half. In fact, it's going to be 40.4375 times it by 100 to equal the percentage. which is the equivalent of 43.75%. So now if I just take a look at these numbers here, I'm going to highlight them for you. 25%, 66.7%, 38.5%, and that doesn't really quite look like a percentage there, so I'm going to make that just a little bit darker than that. There we go. And that, I can actually look at which fraction is the smallest thus far. And the fraction that is the smallest thus far is the one that has the lowest percentage or the lowest decimal number. So 1/4 is going to be followed by 5/13, then it's going to be followed by 7/16, then it's going to be followed by 2/3 thus far. I'm not saying that we're completely done because we still have these two guys to figure out. So let's take a look at 13 divided by 21, and that's going to give me decimal 619. So decimal 619, and then what am I going to do to change it into a percent? I'm going to times it by 100, and that's going to give me 61.9%, and that's 0.9. And then this guy right here is an odd one, because if I was to draw this guy out, this compound fraction, it would mean that I have 5 pieces plus 3 additional pieces on top of that. And take a look at the compound video fraction that I'm going to be doing, compound fraction video that I'm going to be doing in minutes to come here. It's actually going to be up fairly soon. So I'm going to take 8 and I'm going to divide it by 5. And it's going to give me a number that is over 1. So anytime I see something that's over 1, this 1 is equal to 100%. 100% of what my whole was. So I've got 100% plus a little bit more, a fraction of another 100%. So I'm going to take that and times it by 100, and I'm going to end up with 160%. So now again, if I take and try to order these fractions, I'll highlight these guys because I want to work with the percentages potentially. I've got 1/4 is the smallest. I'm just going to cross that out so I know it's done. And then I'm going to look at what the next smallest is, which is going to be 5/13. Then I'm going to look at 7/16. And then I'm going to look at 2/3, because it is the next smallest. Oh, nope, sorry, I was wrong. I'm going to look at 13/21, then 2/3, and then 8/5. And now you can see right here the math has proven that these fractions, once they're transferred into percentages or into decimals, all these decimals, then you can work with them to help you order your fractions and put them into an order from smallest to greatest or greatest to smallest. If you want to rewatch this video, by all means go ahead. It's here as a helpful guide for you. And if you have any comments or anything like that, or if you're not understanding anything, please leave a comment section and I'll try and explain a little bit better. And if you're a student in my class, watch the video, and again, if you don't understand it, ask questions.